Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Andrew. I'm a Chief Customer Officer at Knapsack. I'm excited to lead a conversation here with a number of our folks around how we can use Knapsack to unify cross-platform systems. And really specifically what we're talking about is how do we take all the wonderful things we're doing for systems and a lot of our apps, our web experiences, and extend that to email and find ways to capture additional value and make that some low-hanging fruit. As I mentioned, I'm Andrew. I lead the customer experience organization here at Knapsack, responsible for helping teams sort of find value and expand that value with the platform. We are excited about this field guide series that we've had going on, and this is the last in our current lineup before we take a brief hiatus, but focused on sort of getting deeper into the use cases beyond just sort of surface level things we might see in a lot of the generic demos out there. I'm going to be joined here by Brittany. Britt's a UX engineer. Brittany, want to say hi?
Hey, everyone. Hey, everybody. I'm Brittany. UX engineer. Excited to talk about emails today.
Brittany's done a lot of work in the trenches with our customers, helping them not only get to that sort of baseline value and set it up, but figure out additional ways they can work Knapsack into their digital product operation. Today we're going to get into, as Brittany said, email specifically. Talk about that concept in general. Sometimes it's a bit of an interesting one for reasons we'll get into here in a minute. Look at how conceptually we can take all the things we're doing for web and mobile, et cetera, and feed that into workflows for email as well. And then Britt's going to open up the product and show you some of this in action, and even getting us to an email composed, an interface, and then getting that into a mail platform that we can use to distribute. Let's get into it. So design systems for email. I mean, I've always found this to be a really interesting concept. I spent my career in digital production, and email is not that much of a different beast from website creation, web app creation. I don't see a lot of mature email design systems out there. If you do a quick Google search, you look around, some of the top results are articles from 2018 on Medium about the concept, right? And a lot of them are really just focused on design. Not hard to have a Figma design library, component library for email. We don't see a ton of it in the code side. Some of that's organizational. We see a lot of, especially enterprise orgs, where email lives within marketing in a way that's different from the rest of technology, whether it's web technology or especially core applications. A lot of practice-wise, we just don't see as much componentization, even if there is some code templating. Always curious to hear from you all. If you have different experience, drop it in the chat. But while there's a lot of parallels in just, hey, we're making things with HTML, CSS, we don't see a lot of overlap. But from our perspective, it is really low-hanging fruit. We've helped a couple of teams through this, and we'll show you some of that and how it works today. But the idea that these are processes for beyond just digital production, right? A system can help a process be more efficient when you're doing it at scale and repeatedly. And there's obviously a lot of parallels between web application and email development. We've obviously got the UI patterns pretty much always in Figma these days. We've got styles and themes and way these things are defined in the different code implementations. We've got lots of different structured code, whether that's components and templates or just even handwritten implemented code with given hierarchical structure to it. There's different ways that content is fed in, often through specific platforms, but enabled through some very common sort of protocols, if you will, some specs. And then obviously they get implemented on some platform. Unless you're just hosting some static site, you're implementing on a CMS, a web experience platform in web, you're implementing on MailChimp or Constant Contact or Klaviyo, whatever it is on email. And so there's a lot of overlaps in terms of what we're doing here, in terms of the operation, and even some of the technology. And forgive me if some of this is wrong. I only go so deep in development. I am a philosophy major. But if I look at what does Knapsack help teams with, and probably a lot of your teams with today, it's the stuff in the purple box, right? We mostly are focused on web applications, some mobile stuff as well, but most comprehensively, it's web. And all we're really talking about is, well, let's just do the same stuff for the same stuff over an email, right? And honestly, what we see most often is that the biggest change is that we have to navigate that. Well, this is a new thing, a new way of working, a templatization process, componentization, or we don't have these same workflows for even using things like theming, even though it's technically feasible and potentially simple in cases. Navigating that organizational change, as is so often the case, is the bigger challenge here. Visually, again, what is this going to look like? This is sort of an overview of how teams are commonly set up today, sort of different diagram view of the last chart, right? We've got web design assets probably coming from Figma. We've got tokens. Maybe they're sourced in Figma. Maybe they're sourced in a JSON object. Can be a lot of places. And we've got our web and maybe mobile app, code templates we're pulling in. And so those are all coming in Knapsack. We do some magic to make sure that the tokens turn into styling code, which can be used in those different component implementations. But then importantly, we churn out all these different features and experiences, right? The docs, prototyping, user testing, more recently our MCP server, using this wonderful collection of data and inputs we have. Again, not a lot of difference in turning it online for email. We have templating languages that can be used for simple components. It's again, Brittany will show you here in a minute. Those design assets can really no difference there from a usage guideline. And I would point out, we're not going to get deep in MCP today, but increasingly this makes more and more sense when you think about Knapsack as the tool that's enabling a lot of other maybe agentic or AI driven workflows, where having a single point where our brand guidelines, our experience guidelines, our tone and voice, our web assets, our mobile assets, our email assets, our theming and design token definition, our style definition, the code schemas, how we define and actually can compose components, all of that being in one place is amazing fodder, not just for humans to understand how we can do things at scale, but to actually enable those robots. So lots to get in here that we can start to pull out based on sort of questions, comments as we go in. Take a pause there if there's no immediate questions in the chat. And again, if you showed up late, use the chat, use the QA in Zoom. We will try to get to as much as we can. If there's nothing burning away right there, I will shut it down and pass it over to Britt, who can show you, what some of this looks like, design systems for email in Knapsack.
Cool. Let's dive in. So, okay. Basically, we're going to take a look at a Knapsack workspace and how we can connect email templates that also leverage the same tokens that components we use in our other apps also use. So we have alignment and reuse. And yeah, right now we suck up all the components. And we're like, why not email? And email is also just components in a different language at the end of the day. So let me share my screen. Cool. So just jumping into a Knapsack workspace. First, I wanted to find my components. So these are what we're looking at right here is a full page layout that is written in handlebars, and it's Knapsack is actually rendering the code, the handlebars template to the page. So what I'm seeing here is live code and what if I put this in a platform or email manager like MailChimp, this is exactly what MailChimp is going to render because MailChimp is using the same renderer behind the scenes to read this template. It's written in handlebars. So yeah, basically connect all your things to Knapsack. I connected, React components, Vue components. I just added this handlebars template. Um, so then once you connect these reusable components, your different teams downstream can start to use them in their end products. So like we have React developers pulling in the React components to build their React apps. So anyone who's working on like the marketing or email channel can come into Knapsack and also use these pre-made components or even page layouts as we see here um, to paste them and use them within, their different email campaigns. Um, so if I'm on the email, if I need to send an email, I can just come into Knapsack, uh, say, cool, someone's already built a whole page layout for me. I don't have to like build that from scratch, and everyone's agreed this is exactly like what we want the base layout to be. So there's not a whole lot of like what's the standard? What do we use? I can just come into Knapsack and see exactly what I need. Um, so then another cool thing is like I have the template, but it doesn't quite look like I need to add branding. maybe some different messaging. So what I can do if I'm in Knapsack, we have our different brands set up. So if I go into design under variables, these are different collections. You could see we have two here. One's density, that's like how close things are to each other. And then another one is theme. So basically, within Knapsack, I'm saying we have a default theme. It uses, basic unbranded stuff, like white label system, but I can always go and add another mode, which is basically it can be like light mode, dark mode, but it also can represent your different brands. So if I go in here, I can add like a brand A. You can see I already added our knapsack brand. Um, so now Knapsack has access to our knapsack um, branding within our design system. So these are just tokens that now can be used across any of these frameworks, and they're all centralized here in a place everyone can kind of see, edit, or govern. Um, so now I know I have a knapsack version of this. So how do I go back to that component, go back to my layout? You'll see there's actually a theme drop down here in the component playground. So this is the component playground, which is like I can come in here and change text and see the code update live. So there's certain things on this layout I can edit and update. And then I can also choose which theme I'd like to see here. So you can see density, it's cozy compact. But then if we go under theme, you can see knapsacks there, and also my new brand A that I just added. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the knapsack one, and you can see like right away the color changes, the logo's pulled in, um, like my branding's ready to go. It's already been like decided. We don't have to think about it again. I can just come in here and grab it. And then from here, I can actually grab this template and then, copy it, share it. Um, and I'm going to hop over to MailChimp and we're going to paste that in and see what MailChimp renders, right? Are there any questions before I do that? Cool. Okay. So let's hop over to MailChimp. And then I've just created a new email campaign, and then just pasted the URL to that template that we just like live created in Knapsack. And you can see MailChimp is rendering the exact same email template that we see over in Knapsack, right? Um, so yeah, it's pretty sweet that I can just like centrally manage all of my email templates within the same space I'm managing all my other components, any kind of branding, messaging, style guides. It's all like contained in one space, and um, you can easily add to and like configure these different layouts, provide, a handful of these to the users, like if there's like seasonal layouts, things like that. So yeah, it just kind of speeds up the whole process and streamlines everything, but then also allows there to be some governance and any kind of contributing back. Like some of these teams would actually have a channel and a place to give you feedback and iterate on these things. So it's pretty slick.
Yeah, I work with a lot of teams that support marketing as well as product, or maybe there's different design systems, and it still blows my mind how slow and expensive it can be to get even halfway through the process of making a website or a simple email. And so in those cases in particular, and especially combined with some of the composition stuff, Britt's showing here, the ability to say, instead of going through design of a whole campaign of email in Figma using component libraries and styles, and then still going through all this design-based approval process in an infant canvas, just to get to then having to build it, hopefully with templates, although often again not in a lot of enterprise tech teams, they're still building basically every email from scratch. Like there's a lot of that doesn't need to be that slow, right? If we can go in and say, hey, here's a new brand, let's go in and put in all the images and put in all the content and say, hey, we could ship this afternoon. I could literally get you queued up in, the time it took to run this webinar. We could get the campaign set up. And then we can always work backwards, or you can always go and say, hey, you know what, we want a completely custom template for this. We want, something really distinct. We want to go spend that time, right? And then you're making the investment on where you go and do the long, slow thing, as a very intentional investment, and not just because, well, I don't know, we start email campaigns in Figma. No knock on Figma, great tool, but like emails are just one of those examples where it's typically so highly templated, right? And it really is about content and brand. And if you can, template, like a lot of teams haven't templated it, right? So that's where we start. That's where we look. How are you templating and using the system concept in email? If you're not, is there a way we can at least feed the styles in so that you're sharing themes with your web, the rest of your system, like Brittany showed. And then from there, where can we start to incorporate these same practices of capturing and leveraging and iterating on coded UI patterns as a fundamental part of how you make the thing? We do it for web, we do it for mobile. How do we start doing it more for?
Yeah, totally. I think it's something people don't think about, but even being on like a web team in the past, I've got pulled into like helping with email templates, even though it's not quite the same. So it's like it'd be nice if I had something like this and could just establish it once and not have to worry about it again, at least like creating it. So
Yeah, and we one of the reasons we have a lot of customers who combine their brand documentation with their system documentation in Knapsack, and be different permissions or view for per section, but it's because they want to make it impossible for anyone to see the wrong color purple in the case of Knapsack, right? Like the brand guideline that you're looking at isn't a PDF, it's the dynamic documentation. It's based on the same pipeline that's delivering CSS to the web and to your Swift code, your mobile apps, right? So everything is really tied together, right? So extending that to email again, it actually almost makes more sense in email than it does in a lot of really bespoke applications to get really systematized. All right, folks. Well, that's what we have for today. Again, we are always eager to get into customer specific situations, and so if you have what feel like edge cases, or you want to get into the nuance of your world, or just say, hey, what kind of change? What does this actually look like? How do we address these things? Hit us up, hello@knapsack.cloud, help@knapsack.cloud. We are always eager to geek out about systems and digital production. Thanks for spending part of your day with us. Hope you have a great Wednesday.